morning to you. White Hart Hotel, Keith Hayes, Mirador Television, and here we are with break an egg and ready to go. So let's do the niceties. Well, good morning, and this is Keith Hayes. This is the White Hart Hotel. This is Mirador Television, and this is the 20th of July. How time marches on. The 20th of July already in the year 2023. What a adventurous year it's been, if that's a momentous year. We thought 2022 had enough to offer. 2023 has been full of drama, crisis, and new challenges for our community and our society, not least of which now is some of the hottest weather ever experienced on the continent of Europe, at least since records began. And Mother Nature beginning to kick and pummel us as if we haven't actually created enough to cope and pummel us ourselves. But those aren't the headlines this morning. And really, one columnist has put it succinctly as, are we in a new McCarthyism with woke, and particularly with the behavior of a bank and probably most banks who have acted with high-handedness and arrogance and have really brought us to a state of almost terror and fear because of the way they behave. Elon Musk, and I don't know much about the man. I hear people sort of say good things and bad things and so on and so forth. But the one thing that he has said that has made absolute sense to me, and that is that we are in a new age of computerism. That we shouldn't fear computers taking over man because they've already done it. And nothing could be further from the truth. Yesterday, all I wanted to do was, because I having problems with my iPad, I wanted to access my bank account on my laptop. And after two taps, I was advised that I couldn't do that anymore, that I needed to seek an advisor. Now, I will say this, that my bank, which is Lloyd's, we might as well name them. My bank, actually, I got through on the phone very quickly, which is most unusual, but very quickly, and spoke to an advisor. Delightful lady who tried to steer me through and got to a point where even she didn't understand what was happening. And at that point, we actually got cut off. So I phoned back, and on a second occasion, I got straight through. So the phone system was beginning to work at long last. And then I got a young man from Scotland, God bless him, who was very patient. And he took me through step by step, and he tried to figure out what was wrong. And eventually he did. I would never have figured out what was wrong. Never, ever in 1,000 years would I have figured out what was wrong. But he did, and eventually he got me signed up so that I could enter my own bank account. But what happened then was I got to a certain stage getting into my bank account, and he said, oh, we need to make sure that this is you. We're going to send a message to your phone. Oh, sorry, the bloody phone is on the other side of the room, right? It's not with me at all. It's somewhere else. I've now found it in case anything happens right now. And I have to dash across the room, get the phone, come back, see yet another number to put in. So actually, I spent half an hour trying to access my own bank account. And why? because not only is it reliance on computers, but the bloody computer system did not work, or at least it didn't work the way it was supposed to, and it needed experts to sort it out. And if I sent a bill for half an hour of my time to the bank manager, he'd bin it straight away. But if he does the same to me, he expects me to pay it. Otherwise, he's got control of my funds. Now, that's just at the ordinary level. That's just at my level. But at the top level, we've had Coots, which is owned by NatWest, playing God, playing McCarthy, deciding who is suitable to have an account with their bank and who is not, based on political aspirations. And political aspirations which I would not share. And if I thought that it was using it for that, I would demand that that bank was closed down. It won't be, because Coots is the people's bank. And when I say that, I don't talk about people like you and I. I talk about those people who have got millions and millions and millions. So it's hardly likely that somebody such as I, with less than millions, are going to influence how people look at that bank. So it has got a lot of power. But at long last, it is beginning to come under scrutiny. It is beginning to, people are beginning to start to pay attention. And particularly the government at long last. I've always accused governments of being afraid of the banks, that they don't actually take account of what's happening with the banks closing down branches, taking away the lifeline to millions of people, because not everybody is computer literate. And in fact, half the population most certainly is not. But they are forced by the banks to try and deal that way. And when they can't, they are punished. Well, that's the sort of society you want to live in. It's not the sort of society I want to live in. And it's about time that these bankers were taken to task. Now, we talk about computers. Normally what happens is I take a look at the papers on the computer. Well, now, it just so happens that when I tap into the papers this morning, nothing comes up. All it says is, this is where the papers should be. It's just crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And let us see if, in fact, we can go to an alternative source. Because this is a very typical of what happens. Is they promise the earth, but in fact what happens is that the children who are very good at computers, but not much good at anything else, and certainly with very little experience of what things are all about, simply don't know how to make things simple. They don't know how to make things simple and easy to use. They have to complicate it in the name of they are doing you a favor. And it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Well, if you can see the stress on my face, you can tell that I as in fact many of us do and will do throughout the day, get terribly stressed out because we are forced to use computers and the computers don't do what they say. And in many instances, some bright young spark will come along and say, oh, well, you should do this. Well, how do I know that? Because the computer people speak in computer speak. They take you along a path and then suddenly say, do this, which means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it is crazy beyond belief. But anyway, back to McCarthyism, back to the fear that is being spread in our society at all levels. The Times, right? Banks told to respect free speech. Banks are told to respect free speech. Free speech is the Times headline on the fallout from Nigel Farage having his account closed at Coutts, which he suggests was due to his political views. A document put together by the bank reviewing his suitability as a client mentioned Brexit and his alleged links to Russia. Ministers are considering making free speech protection a condition of permits following the row, the paper writes. There is also a report about inflation falling in the UK. Well, okay. The papers that we're going to take, we'll continue to look at the papers. But this is one of the things that is we must remember. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter. George Washington said that. Too damn true is I say. Freedom of speech is key to our society. And the fact that big banks and big industry and people in charge of social media, yes, and they are some of the worst as well, are dictating how we should think and how we should carry on. It's beyond the speech, beyond the pale. It really is. The Daily Mail is a new law to curb banks that shut down your account. The Mail says Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is planning an emergency law change over the row, and banks found to not protect the free speech of their customers could even lose their license. A sketch by the paper's cartoonist, Jonathan Pugh, depicts someone attempting to withdraw money from an ATM machine, with the screen showing a warning, sorry, incorrect political views, try again. Ha 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 ha! The only thing about that cartoon is you're lucky if you can find an ATM machine now, because with each bank closure in small towns, so the ATM machine goes. Liza Page, who normally appears on this this day each week, who's not feeling terribly well today, but she says they're trying to stop us using money so they can keep track of us. And I think that she has a point. We are being used and utilized by a few people who want control. The Daily Telegraph, NatWest boss under pressure over Farage bank scandal. The reason it's the NatWest bank boss is because NatWest owns the Coutts, and Coutts are the bank which denied Farage or told him to get lost and to take his business elsewhere, and then lied about it. For a second consecutive day, the Telegraph has a story about Mr. Farage's finances front and center. Today's edition says NatWest CEO Dame Alison Rose is under pressure following the decision by Coutts, a subsidiary of NatWest, to cut ties with Mr. Farage. There are also questions for BBC News after it initially reported that Mr. Farage had been ousted from the bank because he fell below the financial threshold. The paper says Dame Alison and BBC business editor Simon Jack sat next to each other at a charity dinner the night before the story was published. You see, there are lots of people who have got ideas about what we should be thinking and how we should be behaving, who are trying to force us to do that. I never thought I would ever say this. I never thought that I would ever take these views. I never thought that I would take the side of the New World Order, but I'm rapidly beginning to think that freedom of speech is not something that we are experiencing at the moment. And it's at all levels. Our own council is far from forthcoming with information. And as Stuart Dolby has discovered in his probes, there are a number of taxes and payments have not been made, and that a number of accounts have not been fulfilled, and that above all, we, the taxpayer, confirmed, I may say, by our MP, Maria Caulfield, is paying £250,000 towards a charity to take over the old council buildings. The charity is not paying any rent. It's occupying the old building, which apparently takes about £250,000 a year to run. Now, you might say, okay, but it's a charity and it's going to do good. Well, with all due respect, it is widely accepted now, except in some little closets in various anti-democratic organizations which set out to say that they are democratic, that we no longer are able to follow democratic paths. And a Harvard University survey shows that the less local media you have is the worse performing councils are and the higher taxes. Well, that fits Lewis to a T. But just some time ago, and for those people who are always stomping on private enterprise, some time ago, because of Brexit and because we got absolutely no assistance whatsoever from the state, while everybody else is getting much largesse, this tiny little television company hit the buffers. We looked around for alternative places to hang our hat. We went to the council and asked if they'd got a little niche. Oh, we can do something for you there, they said, and put us in touch with their commercial man who quoted a cost greater than if we'd tried to hire something on the high street. That was how the council decided to use its largesse. We eventually spoke to the owners of this hotel, Cliff and Sally Aries, private enterprises. Got a nice hotel. Plenty of rumors that it's up for sale. Non-confirmed. But the fact of the matter is that when we approached them for space, they welcomed us with open arms. And since then, we've been here for a little over a year now. A year and a couple of months, in fact. 14 months or so. Well, they not only welcomed us with open arms, but they make sure that everything that we want, we get. We are looked after in an absolutely magnificent way. And that's the difference. And now, something like the Charleston charity, which has almost £1 million in the bank, according to his accounts, get another £250,000 just to kick off with for something which is not secure. Now, what can councils do with our money? Well, it's almost limitless as I can see it. And when I was at Reuters, we followed the fortunes of a council in the north of England who invested some money in a diamond mine on the British Columbia Stock Exchange, the Vancouver Stock Exchange, the most notoriously unregulated exchange anywhere in the world. And so we actually packed up our cameras and off we went to Vancouver. to find out about this diamond mine that that local council, I think it was Bradford, had invested in. And it turned out to be a company in a shop that sold beds. And that's how carefully the taxpayers' money was looked after. There is no guarantee that we're going to get a great flood of people because of what we're doing with Southover House. I'm not saying that Charleston shouldn't move in there, particularly since the idiots who look after our governance have managed to move us all out of Lewis at great cost to the town. And if people can't see it, then my God, I'll tell you, the difference between the town I came to in 1990 and the difference in the town now is huge, immense. So let me tell you that along with the movement out of town by our governance, who simply set up a little shop in the precinct, and they scream and shout and say how wonderful it is. No, it's not. We need our governance at the heart of our community, and the heart of our community is here in Lewis. That's where we need you. We need you to be transparent. We need you to show. Because what you're doing is you're denying us the freedom that a democratic society should provide, and you ain't. And at long last, the banks are being caught up, and it won't be long before you're caught up as well. He said, he hoped. Right, okay. The Financial Times, inflation falls further than expected to shift rates. I think that that is good news. It hasn't fallen hugely, but the fact is that we are seeing a reduction in rates, and the only thing is, of course, is that because the fight against inflation is paramount to the central bank, it means that inflation is going to come down, but rates are probably likely to go up a bit more as well. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged to crack down on banks denying services to customers over lawful free speech. Is the Financial Times take on the story, but the business paper's main report is about inflation falling further than expected after figures on Wednesday showed it had dropped to a 15-month low of 7.9% in June. James Smith of the Resolution Foundation think tank tells the paper the UK is now less of an outlet, of an outlier in the battle to tame inflation. An outlier, I think that should be. Not very clear. Oh, well, never mind. Right, and now what the Express says is prices must drop. Now inflation has fallen. Well, yes, that makes sense, does it not? Of course it does. And we really should expect that shops should bring down their prices. It's important that they do. What the Express says is prices must drop now inflation has fallen, and quotes Jeremy Hunt as saying falling figures are the first fruits of the difficult decisions he and the Prime Minister have had to make to control the rising cost of living. Elsewhere, the paper carries an image of England's lionesses, who it says are ready to roar for the Women's World Cup in Australia, with matches starting on Thursday, today. Well, oh my goodness me. Right, now, the eye takes the view on interest rates, and it says that we are going to see the interest rates will rise as inflation drops, and we Well, we should. Let's go back to our inflation thing. That's when it was going up, and now the eye says that the Bank of England will now make a smaller 0.25% increase to the UK's base rate in August. But citing unnamed Treasury insiders, it also warns that figures are still not falling fast enough for Mr. Sunak to hit his pledge of halving inflation this year, or for Mr. Hunt to cut taxes before the 2024 election. So that's the downside. Now, we thank goodness for my wonderful Daily Star to bring a smile to my lips. But it is very, this morning, it gets a sharp edge to it. And it says, the Daily Star reports the so-called Plank of England bosses have issued bonuses worth £25 million, while the rest of the country grapples with the cost of living crisis. Complete and utter bankers is how the paper describes the figure, including the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, who appears on the front page wearing a hat, adding digitally with the word Pratt on it. Oh, dear. Now, the tabloids do actually get going on other things than anything to do with the economy. And they have, for instance, concentrated on stabbing, and is the Mirror says, "Save our kids from zombie knife horror." Is a teen murder outrage, the Daily Mirror says, is as a mother of a 16-year-old killed with a sword bought online told the government to take urgent action on knife crime. Pooja Kanda led a march yesterday in Wolverhampton for her son, Ronan, who was killed close to his home last June. So, last June, and well, I suppose last year was only a month away, a month ago, but nonetheless, nothing has been obviously done to her satisfaction. So that's their take on the important news of the day. What's the next one is the Metro is it wants £2 million justice for Daniel. Is what it's saying is his main story is a settlement reached between the Metropolitan Police and the family of murdered private detective Daniel Morgan, 36 years after he was found with an axe in his head in the car park of a pub in Sydenham in southeast London. The force has admitted liability for its errors and corruption and is paying undisclosed damages. The Sun, Aled, the singer, Aled Jones, the snowman, wonderful cartoon movie. It was in a Rolex machete mugging. He was attacked, and a Rolex stolen from him. And this is becoming more and more widespread, apparently. And the newspaper is getting upset about it. It says machete mugging, TV star robbed of a £17,000 watch, attacked in the street with his son, 18. TV presenter Alan Jones has been robbed of his £17,000 Rolex in a terrifying street attack. The Sun reports that Mr. Jones' son Lucas was present when someone threatened the pair with a machete close to their home in West London. Neither of them were injured, the paper adds. Right. that seems to be the long and short of the papers this morning, and to me, they have got it right that Coots are the forefront, but I think that Coots are just the fall guys, and that is inherent wokishness is that we're all wrong except them is running right through the banking sector. And certainly it is not serving the people that it says it wants to serve, or that it's taking money from. Branches closing all over the place in smaller towns, ATMs closing along with them, trying to force us to use money, cash, trying to force us to use cards rather than cash. And it's all aimed at our right for freedom of speech. And that is sinister. Sinister in the extreme. Because much as I may not go along with all of what Liza Page says, she says that it's the establishment, if you like, one, what does she call it? The one world group that actually are trying to steer us and determine the way that we think, the way that we behave, the way we spend our money or not spend it. And I'm beginning to think that perhaps there is something to what she has to say. This television station, small though we may be, stands for the very big and important issue of freedom of speech. Not freedom without responsibility. We believe in rule of law, but we do believe in freedom of speech. And when that's threatened, it is time for urgent action. And if Rishi Sunak means what he says and doesn't actually tremble in the face of the people that he speaks to at Mansion House each year, the people loaded with money, then this is a welcome day indeed for unshackling our society from a new McCarthyism, as I think it's Andrew Neil has put it. Andrew Neil, sorry. A new McCarthyism, and that is terrifying. We've got one or two other things to tell you, but we've run out of time, actually. It's 9:04, but we did start a little late because of, once again, a false start. So we'll go away and we'll come back in half an hour and we'll talk to you again. Talk is good. To talk is good. But let's not make it one way. You've got your opportunity to talk too. This television station is also open to all comers. Take the opportunity. Why not? It's good fun anyway. It's good fun being on the air. All right. Let's say toodle bit for the moment, and we'll see you in half an hour.